Hey, welcome everyone to the Nutmeg Tavern. This is live at the Nutmeg Tavern. It's Friday again, and every week we welcome you in, have a seat, and join us for this, something like almost an hour of fun and games. Today I'm joined behind the bar is Ryan.
Hello.
He's not working too hard today, but he is keeping me on track. Technically, behind the console is Aaron, and on the question seat is Kyle, and in the chat box and all. What?
Like you forgot my name for 5 seconds.
Hey, I forget everyone's name for 5 seconds, okay? Anyway, we are here, and welcome. I hope you're having a good Friday. Do we have any special news we need to talk about, Brian?
I don't know. We're doing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we are. We are doing all kinds of stuff. We're actually in the process. So Monday's coming up episode will be the Elm Bark Canoe Part 2, where you get to see the Elm Bark Canoe, and maybe we finish it. Maybe.
Oh, hey, you know what? That's an exciting thing to talk about. We've got a new hire.
Yeah, but he's not here.
But they met him
So Brandon, Brandon, who was in that episode helping me out in Elm Bark Canoe, he has actually joined the team here at Townsend's. Right now, he's having way too much fun out at he's working on Dugout Canoe number 3. And it's like, hey, Brandon, you should come in for the live stream. He's like, no, I'm having too much fun whacking at this log and cutting out a dugout canoe number 3. And that's a job, let me tell you. What else? It's been pretty crazy busy. We've been working on lots of projects, been working on new products. I've been researching for more cooking episodes, and so
looking at
yeah,
all kinds of new products right now.
Yeah.
I think you already said that.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Thank you for your help, Brian.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. What did you say, John?
Have we
Kyle.
talked about the new hire yet?
Yeah. Wow.
Wait, there's a new hire?
Yeah, exactly.
Man.
Kyle,
Yes.
can you give me a question?
I can.
Please.
What was barley used for in the way of eating and drinking?
Barley was used a lot to make something like barley gruel, so an oatmeal kind of thing. It was an inexpensive grain, so they would use it for mixed grain breads. So if you want to make a low class bread, like when I was doing the cornmeal and rye bread, in England they would use barley instead to make an inexpensive bread. So they used it in a lot of the same ways we might use. We don't actually use barley a whole lot. Sometimes like beef and barley soup or something like that. But
yeah, not to eat. We use a lot, and
they used barley a lot, and it was fairly inexpensive. So I was just today looking at barley prices, and while I'm not sure what the amount was. It might have been a bushel. So wheat was going for 28 shillings a bushel. Barley was going for 16. And
almost
rye,
half.
Almost half. And rye was almost exactly the same price. And oats were even just a little bit cheaper than that. So if you wanted to make a very inexpensive bread, didn't make a very good bread, you would make it out of rye, make it out of oats, make it out of barley.
They use barley a lot in their mashes for alcohol.
There you go. Probably because it was inexpensive.
Right.
Is barley water considered medicinal?
Yes, barley water was considered very medicinal, but in a sense that you would feed it to invalids or people that were recovering from illnesses. So it was one of those sorts of things, besides just being a cooling drink in the summertime, but very fortifying. They didn't know maybe exactly why it was good for you, but they knew it was good for you, so they made up barley water, and today we know it's full of lots of fiber and weird stuff like that, vitamins, minerals, and very, very, well, there's like no fat in it, it's all carbohydrates, so
Have you tried it yet?
I sipped a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here we go. barley water. There it is. And it was usually, at least the recipe I was looking at, was very, very strained. They strained it out, and then they put it through a cloth. Today, people don't necessarily strain it as much. This is barley water, and it has a cinnamon and mace in it. Basically nutmeg, right? Let's find out what it tastes like. Oh yeah, it's got lemon, and quite tasty. Not thin like a lemonade, and definitely a different taste. When I was making it up, it was still hot. It's supposed to be a cool drink, so once it was cooled down, I thought it was too sweet when it was hot. Now it's good.
If you thought it was too sweet, here we go.
Yeah, he's probably gonna go, whoa. So, and maybe it's a little too lemony.
Whoa, that's really good.
There you go.
Dang. That's nuts.
So,
That mace really comes through.
yeah. Well, I put extra nutmeg in mine, so. And I can barely even tell.
Man.
I can barely even tell.
That tastes like a holiday treat.
Yes.
Did they have whipped cream back then?
They would make something called snow, which was very similar. I kind of like the term snow. They would put that on top of things. So yeah, sure. Might not have had maybe as much sugar as we put into our whipped cream. Sometimes we put things like that into it, but yes.
You remember that one recipe that was like cream puffs like snow, and where you like make the, you would make like a cream puff is now, and you'd shoot it full of whipped cream on the inside.
I do not recall
Yeah,
that.
that's a really cool recipe.
We'll have to look that one up.
We did that?
No, we haven't done it yet. I actually
Must have been when
I
we
made
were
a-
research.
I made a mark
Oh, did you?
to make it.
Okay.
I've got the information on it.
Hey, that is really good. Everyone should try this.
There we go.
Was it time consuming to make,
The barley water?
or was it just like throw everything in and let it boil?
Yeah, it takes some little bit of time, add some ingredients. You warm it up a couple times. So no, it's not terribly complicated. And it's, it's easy.
Yeah.
And we will probably that will be a couple of weeks from now. We'll have a barley water episode on Monday as a cooking episode.
Man,
Not this Monday.
it's yummy.
No, not this Monday. This Monday is the finishing up of the elm bark canoe.
Yeah.
Speaking of canoes, this question asked, has the river gone down yet for the canoe video?
I have not. We went ahead and pushed it back into August when we're going to actually go out, at least for the big. We'll probably do some test runs, just an hour or two, to make sure to figure out who goes where and all that kind of good stuff. But yeah, we're gonna push it into August. Hopefully, it'll be clearer water
We
too.
decided as long as we're not going to be able to do it right now to make it more difficult, to make it
Yeah,
longer.
yeah, we were thinking let's do it like this, and now that we're going to push it back, we're going to make it into an epic.
Well, this was always going to kind of be a test
Yeah.
for
Right.
the big one. So it was kind of like, well, let's just
Let's just go to the
Let's
big
just
one.
do the real thing. So
like a 5-day trip, something like that.
Did people rebuild earthen ovens often, or did they work to enclose them in structures to protect them from rain and the elements?
I can only give you conjecture on that, and it depends on. I think they rebuilt them depends on how often you'd use them, but every 5 or 10 years. They aren't. It doesn't take a lot of time to do it, and each time you do it, you get a little better at it. And undoubtedly, as you do the first one, you're thinking, "Boy, I can't wait till I rebuild this one so I can make it, with the door bigger or a larger thing, or use a different material so it gets slightly better." If you're really going at it, it will only take you a day or two to make it the oven, maybe even less. I mean, we've made it in less than 24 hours and used it, so you can do it. You would probably rebuild it every so often.
And they were using theirs all the time, so they didn't last as long because, well, like the folks that we talk to that use theirs regularly now,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, it wears out faster than people
Yeah.
that just use it during the summer.
Sure.
I want to get some donations real quick.
Go
Just got a
ahead.
few. Let's get these real quick. 2 donations from. Whoops, knocked my little guy down. Two donations from William Stark. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, William.
NWA Prepper. Thank you. Keep up the great work. And Planet Express. Thank you. On
There you go.
average, how alcoholic were old barley alcoholic drinks get? How alcoholic were they usually? Thanks, everyone. That's all I got right now.
Well, they had a very wide range of alcoholic. You're probably thinking like beers, right? And they had a wide range of those sorts of things. Small beers, so 1-2%, and then they would have stouter beers that they would make strong beers, maybe 6, 7, 8%. I mean, we've got some pretty crazy beers today that are available to us that are higher alcoholic content, but that's your typical range on beers.
Yep, that's it for now. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Did you mention the recipe for your barley water there, John? People are asking.
Well, it's the period recipe was something like 4 ounces of pearled barley, and you boil it in a small quantity of water till it thickens up. Then you add more water, boil it up again, kind of let it set, and then in goes cinnamon, mace, and again you bring that up to boil and let it settle down, and strain that all out. You add in some lemon juice and sugar to taste. And really, there isn't any super specific amounts on this. You're just, trying to get to a certain consistency as you do it. And some people, might want a thicker version, and other people want a fairly thinned down version. It makes a very interesting lemonade-y kind of, well, I don't know, how would you describe it?
It just keeps, with the cinnamon and the mace in there,
Yeah.
it feels festive to me.
Yes.
It's
yeah.
nuts.
It's a spicy lemonade with a body to it.
Yeah. But it's kind of like, it makes you think of like a Mexican spiced chocolate too, with those spices going
Right.
on. It's
I
really,
was thinking like horchata too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Was it common for people to entertain strangers who were just passing by?
We've done an episode on that where I talked about some of those sort of references that you see. Charles Woodmason speaks to those sorts of things, and just about all the travel journals speak to the idea that it was a very hospitable place in North America at the time, and maybe even more so than, say, the Great Britain at the time. And there was, I think it's Morley's The Indentured Servant, and he talks about being, he's just wandering around the colonies for like a year or 6 months, and he's like, I never even had to pay for any of my food or anything. People were always really nice to me. So apparently it was quite a hospitable place, at least for some people. Maybe they had just the right kind of smile and they didn't have any problems at all.
Sorry, I'm getting my fill of barley water.
He's getting his barley water now. While he's getting his barley water, let me do the Patreon names. Not as many this week, so it's going to be a little easier. I didn't have to take 3 hours to go through them. We just have Mr. H, and then Richard Butler, Lily Dragon, and a special thanks to Caitlin Eskew. Those are the Patreon folks this week. And some people come and they support what we do on the channel via Patreon, which is sort of giving us a small amount of money each month. It's a very, very helpful way. More than 500 people help us out that way, and it makes some things possible that just we wouldn't be able to do any other way. So thank you, everyone out there who are Patreon givers in that way.
Okay. Was whiskey fermented with yeast, or was it malted grain, or was malted grain used in the 18th century?
Malted grain, but there's always something yeasty going on there at the same time. The malted grain is really where the sugars are coming from. The yeasts are going to be attacking those sugars and creating the alcohol, and it's going to make some sort of a beer-like substance, and then that gets distilled into
making whiskey from beer, essentially.
Right, exactly. That's always what's happening with any of those sorts of yeast is always involved, whether or not they talk about it explicitly or whether it's It's always in there. Mead, that's where the yeast is coming from. Hard cider yeast, it's some kind of yeast that's going on.
So it was really cool. I was in Toledo not too long ago, and we toured a small distillery that this kind of gotten started in the last 5 years or so.
Yeah.
And it's really neat to see how the process has not changed at
Nope.
all. It was like doing it at Locust Grove.
It's just cleaner.
Yeah. And
And
it's
bigger.
not like a wood-fed fire. That's
More,
the only,
more industrial, yeah.
But yeah, it's nuts. And they were,
It's fun.
How did people deal with the heat of the summer while wearing so many layers of clothing? Clothing seems to be pretty thick back then.
That's just a super good question. I don't know how they did it. I think they complained a lot and
Sheer will.
yeah, but that was, it was the proper way to attire yourself. And so if you're, in a civilized situation, you're gonna wear the right kind of clothes, even if it's way too hot. I don't know.
It speaks a lot to the society of the time, because now we would be like, oh, I don't really care if this offends somebody. I'm going to wear what I want to wear because it's hot outside.
Yes. And to a certain extent, until you've gone outside wearing your linen shirt and your heavy wool coat on top in 95-degree weather, it's not quite as bad as it seems. You would think, oh, it's just plain going to kill you, and it isn't that bad.
It's certainly best if you start out your morning that way and just go through it, because if you add layers later in the day, that's just terrible.
No, you don't want to do that. Boy, it's hot out. Give me that coat.
Right.
I'm gonna get a few more donations right now. Some nice donations have rolled in. Thank you, everyone. Okay, I'm gonna butcher this last name, but I won't give it a shot. John Schmonzes.
Okay.
Thank you. Do you conduct demonstrations / events at schools? BMGF 4325. Thank you. Cooked our second beef steak pie today, 20 minutes ago, and it was great. It may seem silly, but did they have side dishes with their meals?
Mm-hmm.
If so, would you entertain some videos on side dishes and what they would go with?
Okay.
This is Lousy, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are awesome. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Double, no pickle. Love your videos. Your passion for history is inspiring. Thank you.
Thanks.
Magic Lars 15. Thank you. Was long hair taboo for men to wear in the 1800s? Okay, you got those? You want me to run them?
No, I got them.
All
I got them.
Thanks, everyone.
Right. Do we do demos and demonstrations in schools and whatnot? No, we're too busy making videos, and we've done a little bit of that when we went to the fall event.
5 medals?
Yeah, 5 medals. But it takes an awful lot of work, and you can only touch just so many people when you do that. And it's a different experience, but videos we can get the word out so much better. So it's a lot more efficient way for us to do that.
What was the name of that video? It was an Earth and Oven video. Which one was it?
That was Earth and Oven in a Day.
In a day, I thought so.
Yeah.
Because you guys were demonstrating that whole time. You just
Right.
happened to film it.
Right. We were demonstrating, and we turned it into a video. So, and dealt with, worked with a whole bunch of school kids, and there was baking going on, and then there was the building of the ovens. So, lots going on. So we've done a little bit of that, but it's hard to do. It's a lot of work. And whenever you see demonstrators at historic events, you probably don't realize just how much work goes into what they're doing. So thank you to all those demonstrators. Side dishes. So of course they had lots of different side dishes, and some of the cooking recipes that we've done, a lot of them are side dishes that go along with a main meat dish or something else, and you can kind of pick them out. We don't necessarily put them together as meals. We talk about them individually. If you want to see sort of how that went together as a meal, the only one we've ever done like that is the Thanksgiving series, where we cooked a whole series of meals or a whole series of dishes and then turned that into one big meal. And of course there were some situations where there was just one dish, and it was the meal. And then other fancier meals where you would have 3 or 4 or 5 dishes, the main dish, and then all these little side dishes. And a lot of the ones we do are just simple side dishes. Long hair. So men wore wigs, and they also sometimes wore their own hair, and many times that hair was longer and clubbed or queued in the back. So long hair was very, very common and popular for men in that 18th century time period. And sort of this shorter haircut thing really only gets to be popular, especially wearing your own hair and wearing it shorter. That's a late 18th century, early 19th century thing. So really, for earlier, men should have longer hair or wigs.
The like current military high and tight in the time period was, greased back on the sides and powdered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They,
I think that was it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you.
This one says, I'm going to a rendezvous soon. My group has been tasked to come up with a timed flint and steel fire starting competition. I'm looking for ideas. What have you seen before?
I haven't seen a lot of that, but I think most of the time it's getting your little piece of fire to get high enough to burn a particular, like a string or something. So you'd have a string so many inches off the ground, and they're given a certain quantity of materials to make this fire and have it do that. But I'm sure there are a lot of interesting permutations on that. Say, who's the first person who just gets any sort of their tinder bursts into flame, and boy, you do that one, and it's amazing how quickly, if you can do it right, you can go from a spark to a flame.
Any information you can give me on the War of 1812, like recipes, clothing, history of that time period?
Well, that's that. You'll have to do the research on finding. There's a lot of good books out there and units that do 1812, and they've probably got some. I haven't looked at it recently, but some decent websites that will give you some good hints about where to go with that. 1812 is definitely a twist and a step away from Revolutionary War time period. The clothing's definitely shifted and turned somewhat differently. So it's a fascinating concept, or a fascinating time period to study, especially looking at the differences between that and Revolutionary War and 1812 and, say, Civil War.
Were farmers trading seed amongst themselves, or were there large seed distributors in those days like now?
You would certainly go to the store and buy your seed. So there would be seed distributors, or different vendors, different stores that are selling to farmers, are going to stock seed. They're going to get different kinds of seeds imported, or purchase seeds from farmers that are making it just for that purpose. So that's definitely happening, and you see different farmers talking about trying out different varieties. So they have to get them from someplace.
Well, would people grow grains like that in their home garden, or is that a big farm crop?
Typically, you wouldn't grow grains in small plots. You do have a garden, say, and sometimes you might have an herb garden. You might have medicinals in it, but that's a fairly small garden. And then you'd have a bigger garden for things like vegetables. But grains are typically done in much larger fields so that it's more efficient to work them.
What's the difference between nutmeg and mace?
Nutmeg is sort of the inner seed that is growing, and mace is the outer husk that grows sort of like fingers around the outside of a nutmeg, and it's definitely got a different flavor to it. It's very, very similar to nutmeg, but mace is maybe a little more gentle, and in the time period was more expensive.
This is a non-food question. What was used for insect repellent such as mosquitoes and ticks? I have used birch oil from birch trees, and it was quite effective, but hearing Kentucky birch isn't very common.
Yeah, birch doesn't grow too well down. It doesn't even really grow here. We have river birches that grow in this area, but the birch line is really much north of here. Yeah, we talked about insect repellents many times, and generally there isn't a lot of people talking about that. There may have been some of that going on, and Native Americans probably had some particular recipes for that. Most people dealt with it with just smoke. They would keep a smoky fire, and that would repel the insects. Didn't care for that. Of course, you got to breathe all that. It's not good for you. But so it was a real big problem, and those sorts of areas that had a lot of insect issue, they were unpopular places to live because of that. They didn't have a good way to dealing with it.
Mushroom ketchup question. After you make it, does it need to be refrigerated? Also, is it historically accurate to use it like one would use A1 steak sauce?
To reverse the answer is yes. A1 steak sauce, mushroom ketchup. Yeah, you're going to use it as a sauce and a flavoring when the thing comes out. Sometimes you would use mushroom ketchup inside of a recipe too. That's completely up to you, but they can be used either way as that. And when do you have to refrigerate it? Obviously, they just kept it in a somewhat cool place. Because of the amount of vinegar and salt in it, I have had absolutely no problem with mushroom ketchup going bad. But usually, I eat it all up so quickly that it doesn't get a chance to go bad. So there's that. But I've had some bottles that have sat around for years and no issues at all.
Do you recommend, or what do you recommend for someone who has never cooked before, other than the roast onion? I think you're talking about the recipes that you've done.
Yeah. So really, for people who haven't cooked before, just do it, right? I mean, just jump right in there and don't. It's all just about. Everyone makes mistakes, right? And everyone makes mistakes at the beginning whenever they're trying things out. And so I'm really all about hey, try it, whether it's complicated, try it, whether it's easy. It doesn't really matter. You're gonna mess up sometime, but you just have to keep doing it, and you get better at it. And that's just all there is to it. Easy recipes, basically everything that we do on this channel. I don't do hard things because I am not like a super special chef kind of person. So all the things that I do are kind of simple. There are some very, very complex recipes that are in the 18th century cookbooks, but most people don't want to do anything that difficult and tedious anyway. So I generally don't try them out because usually the simple ones are so good. Why would you want to do one that's just super duper complicated? Sometimes the complication just has to do with presentation, which can be fun, and it's not necessarily hard to do. Try any of them.
If you can open fire cook put this meat on a stick or a string and cook it, that's easy stuff, and it gets you used to meat temperatures and knowing when it's done or not, and
yeah,
that's a good place to go.
Let's do some donations. Got some more. Thanks everyone for all the donations today. We appreciate it. Okay. Max are cool. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for sharing your Friday with us. That lemon barley water sounds like it would be good served hot in the wintertime.
It might.
I agree.
I wonder what it would be like in a thicker state if it was hot.
Lumpy thumb. Looking forward to visiting the storefront in a week and a half. Keep up the good work.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you. Blundering tusk. Some emojis and then yeet. Thank you. He said in the chat, or they said in the chat that they're too drunk to be sending super chat.
Okay.
It's fine. Brian Johnson, thank you. Richard Wagner. Is that Rick Wagner?
I don't know.
Might be. If so, thanks. Whoever it is, thank you. Tony Smith, thank you. It's been a while since I've been able to join the chat, but I asked about the sleeping shirts and caps. The stocking cap and the work shirt was perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Great.
Okay, great. That's all I got right now.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Yeah.
I don't think there are any questions in that batch.
No, it's
I think
really
we're
nice
good.
people saying nice things.
Just nice stuff. Thanks, everyone.
What you got, Kyle?
I got more questions.
All right.
What did people in the 18th century do to pass the time, and what did they do for the weekends?
Wow.
I don't. The idea of sort of a Saturday, Sunday weekend, I don't think it's. I mean, they had Sunday, right? They set that aside. But Saturday, I don't know that it was that much of a day off. That's a bit more of a modern sort of concept. So it was 6 days a week, 6 days of work, and then you had your Sunday off. What did they do for pastimes? They had, they would get together, they would sing, they would have meals together. But many times what they're doing is most working people are working until they're very, very tired. And even then, say in the wintertime when there's sort of darker hours when you can't be outside working, they would have crafts and different things they would do as leisure crafts. So things they would be able to make that they had fun doing, just keeping their hands busy and making something that they can later on sell. So that's entertainment. Of course, there were things like, reading books or whatnot. Reading to each other, reading out loud is a good way to have sort of family time that they might have later on in the evenings or whatnot. So a lot of different, I don't think they had any trouble entertaining themselves.
Have you ever considered having an annual festival for all of your viewers to attend?
We've
That'd be fun.
talked
All of our viewers?
all of them.
Let's go.
Yes. Okay, all you Europeans and everything else.
Well,
Let's,
we almost have 900,000 subs.
Yes.
We have to get an arena.
Fit them all in the Nutmeg Tavern.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, it would be a little crowded, but we
I've
could
got
do
a
it.
seat for everyone in the
We'll
tavern.
have to knock out that wall over there.
That would be fun. We've talked about having some
Do you
sort of
think-
get-togethers, but it's really hard to coordinate that kind of stuff.
It is.
Do you think the CD release party for Rick and Hillary was kind of that?
It was the closest
Yeah.
thing, I think.
Yeah, it went really well.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of people show up. We've talked about trying to meet at a particular restaurant or something like that
Yeah.
when we travel places. But man, when we travel places, it's just go. We're just working.
It's crazy.
Even when we're done working, we start working, and usually we shoot footage all day, and then we go wherever we're staying and we review footage all night and talk about the next thing, and then we get up and we work again. So,
Yes.
and it is
Stop
very
doing
fun.
Yes.
Go meet these.
Yeah, but you're so excited when you're
Yeah.
doing it that it's hard to turn
It's
off.
a ton of fun.
Yeah.
All right. What are some fascinating superstitions from the 18th century?
Wow, that's a good one. I'll have to think about
Here's
that.
a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have never read anything like this, but some people that come into the store or that I see at events say that they believed that it was disrespectful to God to not have a hat on, to have a barrier of some sort between you and the heavens.
Wait,
Have you ever heard that? I've never heard that. I mean, I've heard it. I've never read it.
Yeah, I don't know about the thoughts of that in the 18th century.
Okay.
I mean, obviously they were wearing hats, and that is for some people a submission, a sign of submission. But I don't know whether it was just fashion or whether there was some religious context to that. I don't know.
I've read plenty of things where it's like, oh, I need my hat, or
Right.
something like that.
Right.
Like it's obviously something that they feel compelled to wear.
But that may just be that's what you do,
Right.
right? Just
Right.
a social thing. So I don't know. That's a good, excellent question that I can't answer.
What about preservation of winter clothes? Did they have something like mothballs?
Cedar chests, but I don't think you see. Well, I think there may actually be references to using things like bay leaves, or certain kinds of mints,
Really?
to do that. Yeah. That's one of those. If Carol's there, she might be able to pop in the chat if she's got some, because that kind of fits in with that whole laundry thing. And what?
I'm trying to remember the last time we had a live stream where we didn't say,
Carol.
if
Hey,
Carol's
Carol, if you're there, you got an answer for me there? Well, you want to use all the resources you've got at
Right,
hand,
right.
okay?
And Carol's a number one.
Yes.
I have some people saying that they want more Rick and Hillary.
Yeah.
Don't
Who
we
doesn't?
all? Don't we
That's right.
all?
Who doesn't?
They're probably there watching right now.
Yes,
Yeah,
that was
them who
actually
left,
them.
though.
Oh,
was
well,
it?
there we go.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we'll just have to have them. We'll just have to schedule a time and come into the Nutmeg Tavern. We could even have a special, like, middle of the week one or whatever.
Yeah, we'll make something happen.
We will. And Rick, I'm going to put your hat on the stretcher on Monday. I'm there.
Oh, you're going to work on a
Yeah,
hat for
he
him.
requested a hat, and I've been swamped with orders, and now I'm caught up enough
That's an
on
excuse.
orders. I know. You're still my friend, Rick.
This is an interesting question about the getting everybody together. This one says, would you consider a meet and greet if someone else set it up?
Oh, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, if we don't have to do any work, gee Louise, we're there. Watch it be in like France or something, like we got to travel, fly a plane.
Well,
It better be right outside the front door.
oh, your boy. Some people are.
Take over the town of Pearston.
Do we want to talk about today's drink? We're probably about double the amount of people.
Yeah, so today's drink, barley water. It's actually lemon barley water, and I'm all out of my barley water.
Me too. I started drinking something else back here.
Oh boy!
More over here.
And they've totally they've drunk all theirs. I still have a little bit left of mine, but imagine this, and it's very, very 18th century. There's still some places make it today, but a thick, spicy lemonade. Drink it cool. But it's full of like fiber and boy, it's good for you. And they would serve it up to people who were recovering from illnesses or just as a summertime treat. And that's what we've got here today, barley water. Really good stuff.
There are a lot of drinks from the time period that it's like, oh, this is good. But, like, okay, like Switchel.
Yeah.
Switchel is good, but it's so strange at the same time, right? This
But you
is
know-
just like,
But if you were first introduced to a Coca-Cola today, you would
Right.
go, "What
no,
is
no,
this?"
absolutely. But what I'm saying is that this is close enough to your modern palate that it's just like, oh, yeah, let's go. This is great.
Oh yeah, good stuff.
Rick just chimed in. He says, hey, thanks for remembering me, Ryan. You are always a great friend.
Absolutely, I am. No.
He goes on and says all the Townsend folks are great people.
Well,
Thank you, Rick.
He hasn't met all of us now.
Met Brandon.
Hasn't met that Brandon yet. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh, and Hillary just says we would love to come set up a time and play for you guys again.
That would be a lot of fun.
Yep.
So
I don't know if I want to. I'm not sure if I want to be here to play, hurdy-gurdy again.
Oh, come on.
Right. Hey, Rick and Hillary, if you know what your summer events are, you should comment them so people can see them and come out and see you at events.
Yeah, and you can find them on Facebook if you're looking. Sometimes they talk about places they're going to be.
Right.
So
I saw a couple comments saying that people have been listening to them on Bandcamp.
oh yeah.
So,
Yeah, we do at home.
I
all
listen
right.
to them every day. We're cutting videos.
You can't help it.
Yep.
All right, more questions?
Yeah.
All right. Is nutmeg originally from the U.S. and can it be grown here?
I doubt it. I mean, somebody probably grows
I'm
it
sure
here,
you
but
can grow it here in the right.
but
yeah.
no one in their right mind grows it here. Okay, they might be. I don't even want to say it like that.
They've had so much nutmeg that they decided to grow nutmeg.
It's not grown commercially in the United States that I know of. So there you go.
I had a customer come in not too long ago that went to a nutmeg plantation factory place
Yeah.
when he was on vacation, and he
Yeah?
said it was one of the coolest.
Did you get the address?
I did. I wrote it down. I put it on your desk.
Take me there.
We could go there. See.
Well, you probably have more nutmeg in your bunker than they have.
Well, that may be true.
I see John making snow angels in just like piles of nutmeg. When do you begin seeing distinctly American cuisine?
What does that mean?
Well,
That's a tough one.
yeah, it is. It is. Because some things are distinctly American, you know, like the corn, the Indian corn and rye bread, sort of very. It wasn't happening anyplace else.
Okay, but outside of corn.
Outside of
what
corn.
is distinctly American outside of corn?
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah, even the things that we sort of, it's like, oh, apple pie. And then, of course, we did the English apple pie recipe that, you know, it's like.
Now, what about things like fried catfish? Are you seeing that other places?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, see,
Sure.
I just...
Sure. Yeah, you're going to have to come up with
But
the.
fried catfish and cornmeal.
There you go.
There we go.
That's quintessentially American. I don't know. It isn't going to happen until, you know, you get to the mid to late 19th century and America starts to really feel like, we're not just people from other places, but
Right.
we're us, right? So
I think that's one of those things that's tied to your location, right?
Yeah.
So like the Philly cheesesteak or Chicago, whatever.
So it's regional,
It's like it's when you're proud of where you're from and you make something and you name it after that place and it's there.
yeah.
What do you think contributes to the lack of records / details regarding 18th century cooking recipes? That's an interesting question.
Well, yeah, it's a good question, and I don't. Really, it has to do with the amount of time that we have to, and energy that we have to expend on that particular project. I think there's a whole lot more out there than we have the time to invest in that. Is it University of Pennsylvania? One of the universities has an amazing, huge collection of manuscript, handwritten out cookbooks from the 18th century that are online you can look at today. It's not a very quick interface to look through. I haven't looked at it with our new connection, so maybe it would work better. At home, it's sort of, load this page up, and 3 days later, you can actually see the whole page. The problem is they're just photographs of manuscript pages. They haven't been all transcribed out, so they're not easy to read. But there is so much out there to sort of digest and analyze so that we can understand. The information's there. It's just no one's had the time to go through it and spend a lifetime trying to understand some of those things. And maybe there isn't a whole lot to understand, right? But there is the information out there. It's just a lot of work to figure it out.
Was horse meat eaten by Americans in the 18th century?
I don't have a good answer for that one. I mean, it really depends on the situation. There may be certain situations where that was something that they did, but I have not seen any references to it. I've seen them eating some pretty strange things that I don't even talk about right now because people on YouTube would be unhappy with me.
Next question.
Alrighty.
Quickly, please.
Was there a bachelor tax in the 18th century?
Ooh, I don't know. I haven't heard of that one. Bachelor tax.
What did they use for painkillers back then?
Mostly alcohol. Are we? This is the speed
Same
version
as
right
I
now.
feel like we're in the lightning round already.
Yeah, we're in the lightning round.
This is the pre-lightning round, the calm before the storm. Are there any common foods that were enjoyed in the 18th century but cannot be grown anymore, like fruit and grain?
They can be grown. It's just, does anybody want to eat it? One of the things that shows up in a lot of the English recipe books are palates, beef palates, which the top roof of the mouth. People sometimes say, "Oh, that's the tongue." It's not the tongue; it's the palate.
Right.
And I don't even know how you get a palate. No, just not something that shows up anymore. And they were strange. And how did you cook them? And all that good stuff. Related to artichokes, they would cook different kinds of thistles. Chardoons or something similar to that. Skirrets, which are these weird sort of half carrot, half parsnip sort of things that they had. So they were out there, different things that were available as common foods that we just don't cook today. The other item that pops into my head, of course, are songbirds and other sorts of birds. We don't eat anything but, domesticated game birds, chickens, geese, turkeys, ducks. But they were, if it had feathers, let's eat it. Cranes and herons and all sorts of ortolans. So
in our society, I think that's kind of a difficult question too, because we get into a groove where it's like, oh, oatmeal, that you eat that for breakfast,
right?
And
it wasn't
that's
like that.
the grain for breakfast, and
This one kind of ties into that question. Is there anything that offends the palate today that was considered to be popular back then?
Offending the palate.
it's also a society thing.
Stockfish? I don't know.
That stockfish was yummy.
Yes, it was.
No, I think that's a lot of society as well. It
Yeah.
depends on where you're from and what you're used to eating.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of anything.
Smelt.
Well, the smelt was just, we just did it wrong. It would have been, I love smelt, especially fried smelt.
Gotcha.
What about, I don't know what YouTube likes. What about blood puddings, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
I
Blood
don't think
puddings. But that's good, and people still eat that today.
Right.
Especially if they don't know what it is.
But we don't in the Midwest.
I wouldn't say that.
Really?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. Depends on where you're at in the Midwest.
What was animal care like back then?
What was animal care like? Are we in the lightning round yet?
That was the last one before the lightning round.
Last one before lightning
So
round.
this one stretches you.
So it's difficult to answer because today we have two different situations and they were in the middle. So today we have industrial animal raising for meat purposes, which there's that. I'll just push that over there. And then we have pets, right? This is like two different things. And they were somewhere in the middle in that they raised their animals and they raised them for food. But I don't think they got too sentimental over them. But again, they didn't necessarily, they might have wanted to treat them industrially, but they couldn't treat them industrially. And so they would have had what we would consider more humane, if you can be humane to an animal, much more humane, or let's say better living conditions than animals have today that are grown in industrial situations. So we would consider them, free range chickens, or what we would say pasture fed cows, grass fed cows. So it definitely would have been a different situation in how they cared for their animal, but they weren't pets; they were food.
I want to do a few donations before we do this kind of wrap up thing. And thanks again, everyone who's donated. We appreciate it. Dita Jensen, thank you.
Thank you.
Cuttable Spark, thank you. Is there an area of living in the 1700s you haven't been able to experience and or an area you wish to experience more in depth? Thomas, thank you. You're a walking, talking museum. Thank you for bringing such unique content. The passion and effort put into your videos really shows. And then Mike Crook, thank you. And that's it. You're a walking museum, John.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just going to say, does that make me really, really old?
What just happened? You took a wonderful comment from somebody and turned it into something nasty.
No, thank you for that. The experiences, I would say there are tons of experiences that I would love to be able to get, but they take time, right? Some of those things are, they take time, they take places. I would love to, touch base and go to some European 18th century sites, and specifically in Great Britain too. Like to, kind of get the feel of those places, specifically those 18th century sites or earlier. Being at sea in 18th century type vessel, whoa, there's an experience that I haven't had that I would love to have. So there are a ton of amazing experiences that I would love to be able to experience myself.
Cool.
Is this the lightning round now?
Yeah, lightning.
Welcome to the lightning round.
How many questions are in this lightning round, Kyle?
I got some good ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of them.
All right.
Here we go.
8 minutes.
All right. Was chocolate milk in the 18th century?
They had a hot chocolate drink. Might not have had too much milk in it, but sometimes they had milk in it.
Didn't they have any
cold? Nah, I don't think so.
Do you prefer, or which do you prefer, barley water or switchel?
Oh, I'll take barley water over switchel.
Tom doesn't like the vinegary stuff.
I don't like vinegary stuff.
I like switchel quite a bit, but barley water still wins.
Does your wife help you with your videos? Has she ever appeared in any of them?
No, she doesn't appear in any of them. She's certainly moral support. Sometimes she'll help with research on them. Mostly she puts up with me doing the research, okay? Let's just say that's how she helps out. She puts up with me when I'm doing weird stuff in the kitchen and messing everything up.
She keeps us all fed.
And then she helps by making food for the cruise.
Did they eat dandelions as food?
Yeah, but I don't see a lot of references to that. But we know they were doing that.
Lots of dandelion wines too.
And they would do, sort of wild harvesting of greens, and that's one of those greens that they would use.
When did they stop wearing wigs?
It has to do with that fashion change that's going on between 1780 and 1820, and there's this gradual change. Depends on how old you are and how quickly you're, moving with the fashion. So younger people are dropping those wigs. That's in North America. Wigs weren't as popular anyway, but that's that time period. This is supposed to be lightning round. Make it shorter, John.
Yeah.
What is your favorite 18th century drink?
Favorite 18th century drink? Well, today it's barley water. Tomorrow, usually probably a very good, a nice tea. Is what I would enjoy the most.
And last but not least, were forks in the 18th century 2-tine, 3-tine, or both?
Hey, let's even go 4. Yep. Depends on where you're at. So in Great Britain and probably in North America, and for the most part, they're 2-tine forks, and they're used for holding down meat while you're cutting it, not for putting the food in your mouth, because you poke yourself. But they were certainly using forks for eating in different parts of Europe. It's like
Mackinac had 4-tine forks.
Right.
They did their excavation.
There we go. So yeah, and it depends on what time period those were pulled out at.
Yeah.
Whether that was a 19th century.
I was just talking with Dan about that earlier. I'm pretty sure it was 18th century.
Yeah. So it's going to vary, and maybe that was from the French context.
Yeah.
Too.
Very
so
well could have been.
because you'll see sort of like 14th century 4-tine forks in Italy, but so it depends on who you are. Again, lightning round. This is supposed to be short.
I just can't get the image out of my
That was
head.
the
of,
end.
like
Oh, you're at the end. Woo! Look at that.
when I was
okay.
a kid, and it was like you have to dress up to go to church, and you didn't want to. I was like, no, Dad, I don't want to wear that, whatever. But somebody was like, you wear your wig, son. No, Dad, I'm moving past wigs.
Yeah, I'm.
Times are changing.
Wigs are old-fashioned, Dad.
That's it. I don't have any donations. Nothing. I think we're good.
It's another
You did it, John.
exciting Friday. Sort of like, put John in a pressure cooker and turn up the heat. Let's see what happens.
John loves this.
I do. I always come home excited. Probably Whitney's like, it's Friday, and he always comes home all excited. I always love the live streams, and sometimes it's like 3 o'clock on Friday. It's like, oh, it's the live stream time, and then woohoo! I'm always excited when we're done. So I want to thank you guys for coming into the Nutmeg Tavern this Friday and being part of what we do here. It is always exciting. It's always fun. And I learn something every day. Usually learn how much I don't know by all your wonderful questions. So thank you guys for your amazing support, whether it's Super Chat, Patreon people. There's a lot of people that just support us by watching our videos. That's incredibly important. And especially when you share our videos, you tell other people about them. I know so many people share them within the family. It's always funny when you hear a family story where it's like, oh, I was going to show my son this video and he already was a fan of your channel. And so, you get great stories like that. But you guys sharing our videos, that's important. Thank you for everything you do, and thanks for watching today.